The Chaos Realm is a funny old place. There's a certain corner where this one fellow holed himself up with a dying bear god. Really just everyday business out in the seas of inexplicable impossibility that wait behind the curtains of the world. However, this bear caused a nuisance by roaring so loudly that gateways between real and unreal opened up. Yes, that's the sort of thing you can do in the Chaos Realm. Ordinarily not such a problem, as anyone who came in would die in so many ways simultaneously that the resultant sludge wasn't even technically dead. Again, a Chaos Realm thing. The problem in this case was that one friendly chap strolling about out there was a chaos demon known as Skarbrand, a devotee of Khorne, whose unrequited love for the blood god had twisted him up into a pitiful tissue of a demon. He hardly haunted the mortal realm at all, sitting on an infernal throne in the northern mountains, pouting at his endless seas of cultist servants. It was boring, it was lonely, it was the worst the mortal realm had to offer a jobbing demon lord. So when these gates opened up, it presented an opportunity to rub shoulders with the unhoy unpolloi of the inscrutable Everrealm. If Skarbrand could pop in and tell that strange fellow and his bear to put a cork in their interdimensional tiff, the gods would surely take notice. And indeed, were the bear god to die, the sculophile savant in the sky would surely savour such succulent sacrifice. For Khorne, Skarbrand's patron god, was the one the demon truly lived for, and by lived I mean killed most of the time. Thus our hero Skarbrand gathered up his pointiest and most metal-clad followers and paid a visit to one of these gateways. It was a writhing pyramid of serrated tentacles, roosting around a pall of stormy light, from which pours at all hours of the day the kinds of unlooked-for monstrosities foolish enough to sample the familiarity of the physical. As Skarbrand approached, he thought he saw something. He vividly saw Khorne giving him mousy glances from behind the tentacles, beckoning the demon lord closer with a subtle twitch of a finger by the hip. Everyone else saw things rather more mundane. Fecund seducers of indescribable beauty, dishes of sweets whose mere scent could upend entire worlds, and moors of weightless quilts, inescapable snares of bottomless yawns. Yes, everything you'd see on a standard trip into the domain of Slaanesh. Skarbrand and company found themselves transported to the debauched god's quarry of desire, running in rings around the fleshy trunk that was the Tower of Pleasure. There, Khorne was confronted by the courtesan, the premier purveyor of parasitic pleasures, whose palace pulsed with punctilious pap, whose smile could sail 1,000 ships in all manner of directions, and who was eager to tear out Skarbrand's soul for a little light refreshment. "I heard you were cast out from the court of Khorne," the courtesan teased. "Why not stay with us and sink into the lather of irresistible Slaanesh?"
"Blood!"
Skarbrand wittily retorted, and blood there soon was, all over the luxurious fluffiness of Slaanesh's abyssal carpet. Seizing the demon soul of the courtesan in his clawed, blood-sopped fingers, the scion of Khorne and his pointy host were cast back into the real world in an instant. Yet the soul, burning blue, remained in Skarbrand's possession. With such a powerful soul to command, he could surely impress his immortal master, and what more could he do were he to chance upon more? It was such a fine question that more sought to impose itself by forces greater than chance. One day soon, while hunting for mortals along the snowy coast, Skarbrand came across another of the mysterious slimy gateways. This one shone with red and orange, Skarbrand's favourite colours. He and his host hoofed it hither and crashed into a counter-hoofing company of Khorne's cultists. Yes, this gateway gushed with the glorious stank of living meat freshly cut, and burbled with the agony chorus of a proper chunky battle. Beyond, the realm of Khorne had plenty of this for all who wished it. and who among Skarbrand's host were not averse to a bout of skull-searching, even if the eventual lesson was that they had a perfectly good one inside of them all along. Thus ensued a veritable vacation of violence through the Blood God's realm. For Skarbrand, it felt good to be home, and more than a bit naughty, for in his younger days he had actually been exiled after an incident with the big bloody bogan in charge. You see, Khorne, in a private moment with Skarbrand, had cautiously inquired if he could ask you a question. Skarbrand, quick of hand and slow of mind, heard the words "axe you a question," and pieced together that he should swing his axe right into the Blood God's noggin. In fact, it had already happened by the time he was done deciphering this. The poor demon was permabound, as they say. They also said there was no love lost, but alas, there most certainly was. This trifling tangent gives some perspective on the reception Skarbrand received on his march to the Brass Tower. This nail of fire, this bolt of shattered bone, this tower-like structure towered over the land like a towering tower. Its base was guarded by the grey-hearted demon, known only as the Gatekeeper, for indeed his real name was far too embarrassing for the sort of company one keeps in a tower with such toweric terracity as this one. As Skarbrand approached, the Gatekeeper said, "Your toll in skulls is not yet paid, and never shall it be, even if the mortals were to all grow a second head. What audacity has the deceiver infused in you now, exiled one?"
Skulls!
Skarbrand adroitly answered, waving his hand in greeting. Oh no, the hand was holding a big axe. The gate was suddenly rather unkept. But Skarbrand only had a moment to swipe up a skull in one hand and a soul in the other, before the Blood Realm faded away, and the infuriatingly pure snows of the mortal realm faded back into view. A brief and nostalgic journey home, and a welcome reminder of what he was fighting for. With 2 demon souls tucked away, Skarbrand knew that the dying bear god shaking the times from within could not hide much longer. Back in the bosom of bracing banality that was the mortal realm, Skarbrand skipped around the frontiers of humankind, picking out the finest bouquet of skulls he could, a touching adornment to his ultimate gift. And yet, all his shenanigans did not go unnoticed by another of the Chaos cults, the anti-hospital of Nurgle, the Plague Lord, and his many spore-spewing servants. As before, the tendrils of reality opened one day, bathing Skarbrand in a stew of yellow and green fog, as sickly on the stomach as it was sweet on the nose. Commanding his thralls to follow, he entered the domain of Nurgle, the Unclean One. It was a realm of pus, of mould, of unhealth by gluttony or starvation, yet never in between. Every surface was covered in poisonous beings, reaching out to prolong their doomed lives by sapping vitality from the doomed to be. Skarbrand thought it was somewhat gaudy. He passed over this land of boils and rashes with the shielding confidence of one who knew they were far too busy to get ill, and hence illness, kindly preferring a degree of consent, sought other ventures. There was always a peasant eating dung somewhere to pay a visit to. His destination was the great mansion of the Plague Lord, a demonstration that in Nurgle's realm, even brick and mortar succumbs to disease. Before this rectory of rancid rot was a placid plot, the Gardener's lot. The Gardener, demon of green fingers and more besides, stooped up from his festering mulch and took stock of the cornic caller.
"Ah, simple one,"
he wheezed.
"A wanderer who slays with metal and metal, here in the armory of Petal and Pestle. Lord Nurgle will be pleased among disease to lease you the keys. Spread pestilence below, and who knows how far you'll go."
"Death!"
Skarbrand philosophized back. Ordinarily, the Gardener would nod sagely in agreement. However, a Nurgleite's deathful identity was much closer to the slow, decaying kind, not the exhilarating, ripping kind hidden in the deep and winding subtext of Skarbrand's argument. Or, you may note, on display in the playful arc of the gardener's head as it travelled with the very inevitability of watchful disease into the expertly unwashed hands of a certain bone-hungry demon. In a flash, the lands of the Plague Lord gave way to the killing fields of the northern wastes, but for a shimmering soul that followed Skarbrand hence. The count was now 3, and the warpway route to the source of the Bear God's power was starting to become clear. Skarbrand needed just one more bite of demonic power to grasp his prize. This was not lost on the great deceiver, Tzeentch, the Chaos God whose invisible machinations were behind so much of the drama that entertained the immortal realm so. He kept a close eye on Skarbrand, thirsty for his power, and even more so, desperate to turn that power against the rest of the Chaos Gods, that chaotic chaos might be chaosed. From his sleeve slipped a subtle scheme. Skarbrand was on a business trip to the realm of Kislev, sampling new skull textures by the latest the mortal realm had to offer. There was a roar from the other side of reality, and the tentacles of transportation appeared in the tundra, humming with a purple haze. From them came the voice of the trickster god.
Skarbrand? I don't want you to enter my domain. Not at all,
it admitted. But Skarbrand, knowing that this was surely one of Tzeentch's myriad lies, hatched a cunning plan. He would enter the land of lies anyway, thus surely dashing the deceit dealer's devilish devices. Alas, he found himself transported to an endless cosmos of confusion. It was a realm that embraced the rules of magic and cast out the logic of the material. When one took a step forward, they could go back. When one spoke, the language was alien. When one closed their eyes, they would simply see other worlds, tumbling through the immaterium, anchors of the damned souls ensnared by the slivering sorcerer. In other words, public transport options were lacking. Skarbrand's many followers stumbled back and forth, up and down, after and before, loster than lost. Yet the cornet champion himself found it all more moderate, for a simple reason. To experience deceit, lies, and illusion, one must be of the mind to process it in the first place. Perhaps to put it another way, Khorne was thinking about skulls, and not very much else. So he strode forward, knowing precisely where to go. Ahead, he saw the ensorcelled source a sore sorcerer sought to sequester, a lodging with no bottom or top, whose outside was within the inside, twice as tall as it was tall, and first built shortly after its spectacular demolition. Yes, the Impossible Tower, the seat of Tzeentch's puppet master of all that was knowable, the Librarian. This purple-hided demon, with horns that numbered differently with every count, and the feathered wings of irresponsibility, stopped Skarbrand and asked,
"You are spent with many foes in many corners, lost demon. Why not accept the succor of Tzeentch and turn your pain into the agonizing frustration of your enemies? Indeed, one is never deceived among deceivers, and that, my friend, is the honest truth."
Skarbrand, not listening, was startled from his daydream, shouting,
"Battle!"
But sadly he was not in a battle. Unless you count the lethargic stretch of his axe arm, accidentally beheading a certain keeper of all unreal knowledge. Perhaps Khorne would count it, since it yielded a skull after all. Moreover, the demon's powerful soul was bound to Skarbrand now, bringing his suite of second-hand spirits to fore. There remained only one step. But Skarbrand didn't really know what it was. He felt the immense power of his siphoned souls within himself, yet how could he actually find the hidden bear god and claim its invaluable skull? So naive he was to think it would be difficult. All he had to do was believe. For belief is the root and source of all the complexities of chaos in the end. Right there, in the middle of Kislev, on the clock at work as it were, Skarbrand thought that he really wanted to usurp the Ursine offering, although not in those precise words, and what do you know, the Temeric tentacles shot up right before his glowing eyes. Skarbrand proudly stepped through to the other world. He found himself walking on a bridge of pure light through a nebula of smoke and fire. The route twisted and span, rose and plummeted. An ordinary demon could never traverse it without being cast into the roiling abyss. However, with the powers of the 4 demon souls, Skarbrand defied the Chaos Realm's mocking attempts at gravity, and walked freely in any direction the ethereal road required. After what felt like any length of time one cares to imagine, Skarbrand arrived at the Forge of Souls. This was the prison of the Bear God, ensconced in the depths of the unholy factory for reasons time had digested beyond knowing. Skarbrand saw huge pistons clanking out from one end of the sky to the other, work that melded magic and metal to produce the endless artifacts the servants of chaos desired. Skarbrand passed through into the chamber of the Bear God, a deep cave in which the pounding of pistons was dull and the embers of otherworldly forges shone meekly. The bear itself, rather large as gods tend to be, sat wrapped in cursed chains, bleeding ice blood from wounds of claw. It was going to be like shooting a very strange fish in an even stranger barrel, until someone stood up from a chair overlooking the cave. I did say, if you recall, that someone had lodged themselves here with the Bear God, and that someone was not expecting visitors. There was a flash of black, and Skarbrand was at once face to leathery face with a demon who hadn't updated his social media in millennia, Belethor, the first demon of mankind, exiled for his betrayals against the gods, or some such misdemeanor.
Brother Skarbrand,
he said warmly with open talon arms.
It seems those spurred by the gods are fated to meet here in this Forge of Souls. Your power outgrows you, brother. Even the gods wonder what malevolence you plan. No longer must you grovel for position. No longer must you live with your timeless regrets. Join with me here. Take on the power of Ursun, the Great Bear, and serve as the foremost captain of a new Chaos God, me.
Meeting Belethor eye to eye, Skarbrand said,
I just don't like you in that way.
And so saying, he offered Belethor a traditional Khorne-y platonic hug, complete with the traditional axe through the neck, which, per certain other traditions, happened to cause Belethor's schemes to come to an end. Thus, the wonderful ending Skarbrand had sought was at last nigh. In the dark nest to lie pooled blood lazuli of lamenting god whose cries split the earth and brought demise all the way to he, the end of Ursun's sovereignty, the skull prize earned and severed free, for demon lo, a chance reprieve. Yes, the skull of a god followed Skarbrand from the forge, and try not to worry about the details of how precisely this was arranged, alright? The fated gesture of reconciliation rolled up to the falls of history, and there, riding his love lute, was Skarbrand the Exiled, bringing his tribute before the Skull Throne on the hidden battlefield of Khorne. Really a very thoughtful gift, we can all agree. However, as Skarbrand knelt before the burning image of hate incarnate, he began to hear a tittering laugh. From his right appeared Slaanesh, resplendent in their assorted layered finery. Behind lumbered Nurgle, the tumor beast, dripping green with his latest noxious gurglings. To the left, the marine wings of Tzeentch unfurled, revealing the open smile of the frail, hobbled body beneath. They needn't say anything. Skarbrand knew he had been played like a fiddle, a rental fiddle during symphony season no less. Skarbrand had killed off all the most powerful demons, the main pretenders to the thrones of the various gods. And why? To adorn the Skull Throne with bare barebone. Khorne cackled and boomed, endlessly amused at the pitiful penance his prior paramour had procured. Well, who can blame him? You can't put bear skulls and human skulls in the same throne anyway. That's just Thrones 101, silly. Of course, Khorne needn't give any reason for his disappointment. He need only cast Skarbrand all the way back to the mortal realm, confused as ever. Thus things end roughly as they began. Skarbrand was a run-of-the-Soulforge demon with a bill of skulls forever unpaid, a miserable labourer in the machine of malice that was the Chaos Pantheon. He trudged home to his mountain palace, defeated. Along the way, he saw a tiny bloodletter, his favourite monster, shamble up beside his path and hold out his wee claws.
"Hey, mister, can I have some skulls for my skull throne?"
he mewed. Skarbrand opened his mouth to voice a generous spirit. Hang on, no, he just consumed the being whole with a light crunch. Oh, Skarbrand, a moment on the lips, a lifetime on the hips. No wonder Khorne wasn't interested. Oh dear, oh my. Well, that's the end of Skarbrand's tale for now. The moral of the story: don't worry about chasing your dreams, it probably won't work anyway. Until next time, mortals.